You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 202.
Now, I just recently kind of came over the holidays. Everybody's like, you're spread so thin, Justine. How do you do it all? You can't do 3 jobs forever. And I kind of started to re-strategize, like, okay, what am I doing here? Can I do all? And then I almost kind of gave up some things and started to get a little focused. But then I realized that it's not time yet. Like, all of these things feed into each other, and all of these things work really well with each other. And one is not the same without the other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I'm Bennett.
Jeez, you're no good at this, man. We got to get back to our roots.
Sorry.
And we have on with us today Justine Evirs. Now, for those of you that are new to Justine, you can go back and listen to a previous show she was on a while ago, and that happens to be Change Your POV episode 176. So you can head on over to the show notes of this episode and find the link to that show. But Justine came on, and her and I talked about veteran hierarchy of needs, which is interesting because that conversation actually spurred a lot of other conversations amongst other communities, other veterans. And Dwayne France actually had me on during his end of 2017 13-part series on veteran mental health boot camp. And we continued that conversation talking about veteran hierarchy of needs and kind of how that relates to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So welcome back to the show, Justine. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm pumped to be here. I always enjoy talking to you guys. Last time we chatted, I think we probably talked for for 2 hours, and we were just joking. I totally forgot I was on the show. We were just hanging out. So I'm excited to be here again. So much has changed. I can't believe how many things have changed. I know. Really directly out of that conversation we had last time.
Well, that's awesome. And I was going to say, if you want to get to know about Justine, just go to the original show and listen to the intro. But like you said, there's so much that's changed since then. I think let's do a different one. Tell us about you and what you're doing now.
Oh my gosh. So I have 3 jobs. We'll start there. So my main job that is paying the bills, which is really important, is Founder Institute, which is the world's largest idea stage accelerator. And I run operations for North and South America. So we run off a chapter-based model, and this is not directly related to veterans. This is actually the general population, and I'm working in the startup community around the entire world. And it's just mind-blowing to see what it takes to kind of build a proper ecosystem to generate, amazing companies. And so we run like a 3.5-month program, and we have local directors that kind of execute that program. And I am the headquarters support for those directors who kind of run it boots on the ground. So that's amazing. And that this opportunity has been crazy because, a year ago when we talked, I was so immersed into higher education. And since we talked, and I think the last time we talked, I had just left the higher education community and kind of set out within the nonprofit space to make a larger impact within, higher education in the veteran space. And I was working with Services School, and they're an amazing organization, but after 3 months, it wasn't enough for me. I felt like there's still something else out here that needs to be done. There's a lot of areas of service that aren't being kind of watered, as I like to say. The garden wasn't growing. And so I went on this entrepreneurial journey. Went to Stanford Ignite over the summer, and then shortly after got involved with Founder Institute, running the Bunker Labs chapter here in Bay Area. And I just started my own nonprofit. So all of that change happened like right around May. I took over Bunker Labs Bay Area. I went to Stanford Ignite. I got a job at Founder Institute. And all the while that change was happening, I was kind of brewing on this idea around the paradigm switch. And then was building quietly for a while, and then went public with it probably August, September, because all my good friends were yelling at me, telling me that I had too much good stuff not to share. So I just started putting it out there, and now it's grown into what it is. So 3 jobs. I've accomplished 18-month goals in 6 months, which is insane to me. But yeah, now it's kind of, they all work together, and it's working well. And I don't know how long I'll be able to sustain 3 jobs, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm working every day, 7 days a week right now.
That's craziness. But I mean,
My hashtag is 3 kids, 3 jobs.
oh my God, that's that's brutal. But I mean, but the big difference there though is a lot of what you're doing is around passion, not around necessity, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of people that work 3 jobs because they need 3 jobs to make ends meet, pay the rent, put food on the table, and that's a hard place to be. Doing kind of like what you're doing with all of these is I could be wrong, but it sounds more passion based than financial motivated, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the only one that's bringing in any money is Founder Institute. Bunker Labs and Paradigm Switch is generating a lot of impact, but not generating any money at all. And I love it.
Yeah.
And I've been in that situation where you have to work 3 jobs to get by. And I mean, it's a lot of work, and I wake up every day, like happy to be here and grateful that I even have the ability to do this. And I don't complain at all because I love every moment of it.
And it's funny. It's funny because Dwayne, the other day, I was talking to the other hosts at Change Your POV and kind of giving them some direction, or some updates we're doing on the website. And Dwayne messages me back and he says, "Man, you're sure doing a lot of work on something you don't get paid to do." and it's true. He's absolutely right. But it's something that I love doing, and the mission that we have and the impact that we're having is just incredible. And someday would we like to get paid for this? Absolutely, because this is something that we're all very passionate about. But if that's your motivator, then I think you're in it for the wrong reasons. And let's just kind of spin off of that for a minute. There's a lot of conversations and discussions that Bennett and I and everyone over at Change Your POV actually we have about veterans getting out of the military, starting their own nonprofits, entrepreneurship, and it's a lot. I mean, we are very big advocates and proponents for entrepreneurship if done correctly. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of people doing it correctly, and I think a lot of it has to do with education. They don't know how to do it correctly. They just get told, "Oh, you just get out of the military, start your own nonprofit. Money's just going to come flowing in," and like whatever they're told, right? It's just. And people just don't do the research. They don't look at the market and see what's out there. Even for-profit entrepreneur, like owning their own business. I talked to a guy the other day. And it was interesting to start. He's still in the military and he's about ready to get out, and he wants to start his own business. And I said, "What's the number one reason why you want to start your own business?" And he says, "Because I'm tired of working for somebody. I want to work for myself." And I said, "Well, I got a little bad news for you." I said, "Even if you own your own business, you still work for people. They're called your customers." and a lot of people don't really take that into consideration. They think that they could just start their own business and be their own boss, make their own decisions, and they don't answer to anybody. And that's the furthest from the truth than any other myth about owning your own business or entrepreneurship anyone can have. What are your thoughts there?
I agree 100%. I think I would have laughed. I laugh when people say that. Like it's pretty empowering to start something from scratch and build something, but at a very probably sooner than most people think. It's not about you. It's about what everybody else wants. Like I can build something that I love, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to build it around what the market needs and what people are interested in, and you kind of have to ebb and flow with what people are interested in. And so working for yourself is great, but in reality, it's flexible because you can work, you're working way more than you would if you worked for someone else. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like this glitz and glam of entrepreneurship is far from the truth. But there is also a lot of good. It's been life-changing for me, to be honest. I've come full circle in life, even just a year ago from talking to you. I've changed so much personally and professionally. I'm very grateful for the experience, but it has been very far from glitz and glam and working for myself and being this like boss lady. Most days I'm a freaking wreck, and I'm kind of sifting through all the negative feedback and trying to find a positive in there and then kind of building from there. But I would agree with you. I think most people go to start a business and they kind of have no idea where to start. And I think that's why I really love my role at Bunker Labs. Now, I just recently kind of came over the holidays. Everybody's like, you're spread so thin, Justine. How do you do it all? You can't do 3 jobs forever. And I kind of started to re-strategize, like, okay, what am I doing here? Can I do all? And then I almost kind of gave up some things and started to get a little focused. But then I realized that it's not time yet. Like, all of these things feed into each other, and all of these things work really well with each other. And one is not the same without the other. And, while I may be inspiring people to make the leap, I want them to have the right resources. And so Bunker Labs is not the whole solution, but it's a part of the solution to being able to like network and hear those horror stories, and people realize like, okay, I want to work for myself, but maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe I kind of need to go back to the drawing board, or maybe I need to connect with this person over here and get some resources and dig a little deeper on this idea.
Yeah.
The hard truth is 90% of startups fail, and out here in Silicon Valley, everybody's like, fail fast, fail forward. And it's like this like glamorized idea around failure. And I'm just like, it's not fun. It's necessary. But yeah, it's like, who wants to fail? I don't want to fail. I'm too damn competitive. Mm-hmm. I'm too big of a type A plus competitive person where I don't want to fail. But it has been very necessary to some of the things that have happened in my life that I think the difference maker, in my opinion, between entrepreneurs and definitely what we see within founders, definitely working at the Founder Institute, it's sometimes not about the idea. It's more about the founder. I think it'll eventually evolve into what your product is, but initially it really does come down to who that person is that's building. Are you flexible? Are you able to listen to the market? Are you able to turn a negative into a positive? Are you able to stay positive when shit's hitting the fan? And so those are a lot of characteristics that are very common within our community. And hence why I think, 25% of transitioning service members want to start a business, but only 4% are really doing it. And I think the reason why is because of that education gap on how to do it, where to go, where to even start, and the failure part. Not everybody's up for that.
Yeah. So really quick, and this is going to be a very, very polarizing comment I'm going to make, or at least a discussion point I'm going to have here. And that's this whole idea around higher education, right? It's funny because I talk with a lot of people, and Bennett and I were just talking about this the other day, and Bennett, I'll let you chime in here in a second. And,
I'm laughing.
Yeah. You know exactly where I'm going with this, right? So it seems like everyone that I talk to that is super proud of the fact that they're that they're making it in the world without an education, or those without the education, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't ever run into anybody, and this is kind of Bennett's point, I don't ever run into anybody that says, man, I wish I wouldn't have gotten that degree from X college or X university. Man, I wish I would. Because it's funny, because the only people that I hear saying that you can make it in this world, you don't need college. College is the only people that are chanting that are the people that don't have any education. And I'm not here to say that you need an education in order to succeed in this world. You don't. My father is extremely successful, never went to college. There's a lot of people, Gary Vaynerchuk, extremely successful, never went to college. I mean, there's people that can do it, but that's in my experience and the people that I've talked with, that's the exception, not the rule. And I know as a hiring manager of multiple companies that I work for, that's almost that's the prerequisite of even getting in the door. You know what I mean?
My exact words were, no one said I shouldn't have got that degree from Stanford ever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nobody ever said that.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree 100%. I think there is a missing gap, though, that our economy is kind of shifting in this interesting dynamic right now where everyone has, I wouldn't say everyone has a college degree, but the college degree, like you said, is almost like a prerequisite to even getting your foot through the door now. And there's so many other things that need to be involved.
It's the new high school diploma.
Exactly. And that's actually how the paradigm switch was born. Because I've been working in, higher education for the last 8 years, and I was so involved with the transition process through education. And I was finding that people still were graduating from college, but still not getting the job. And it was two things. It was, depending on the industry, they were lacking those high technology skills and the network. And so, through all my work with SVA and the different community, things I do, I would fix a little bit of the network problem, but I couldn't fix if you were trying to get into digital marketing. I couldn't, who am I to tell you, you just served 4 to 8 years in the military. You just spent the last 3 years getting a marketing degree. And now, oh, by the way, you have to go back and pay out of pocket and go to this digital marketing program to get your foot through the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pain in the ass, but it's the reality. And oh, by the way, it's not even covered under the GI Bill, and you got to wait even longer. And now you're 28 trying to hustle to get some entry level job. It's a pain in the ass.
So talk to us about the paradigm switch. Now, it's kind of a play on. I want you to kind of get into the difference between the paradigm shift versus the paradigm switch, and kind of what you're doing different with that. So the paradigm switch. I watched the explainer video, and that video will be in the show notes of this episode. It's a great explainer video, but I want it to hear from you. Kind of where was this born from, and who does this serve, and what are the folks that are going through this? What do they take away from it?
So it's a very simple concept. It's a scholarship. So the idea around this, I brainstormed on this for months. I just kind of literally was in my kitchen. My kitchen was filled with Post-it notes for months. My husband probably wanted to wring my neck for months, but I was just completely I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew that it had a lot to do with exposing people to opportunities and then giving them access. And so the core values are expose, access, and transform. And I looked back on every program I built or every, education program I was ever involved with. It really came down to half the community. I would say more than half of our veteran community and military spouse community, they don't even realize how many opportunities even exist for them. It's not a lack. You and I talked about this. This isn't lack of resources. It's a problem of streamlining resources to what works for you and your family at that time. And so that was a lot to do with it. It's how can I expose people to new opportunities? But then I kept hitting a roadblock around that skills-based program. There's 6 million unfilled jobs in our country right now. So this is not a veteran problem. This is an American problem. We have 6 million unfilled jobs. And the reason for that is because of this high technology skills gap that our country is facing. The jobs are moving so fast. You go to start a marketing degree, you need a marketing degree to get into the door. But Facebook is changing so much, and no one's teaching Facebook ads or Google AdWords in a marketing degree. I took a marketing class at Stanford, and I didn't learn anything about Facebook ads. So there's a lot of certifications popping up of experts that are in this field who are now building curriculum. But the problem is our community doesn't have access to it because it's not covered under the GI Bill. And so while all this kind of model is shifting, our community is going to get left out of the conversation because A, they don't know about it, or B, they don't have the financial support because it's not covered under the GI Bill or any sort of, military spouse financial aid, if that's even a thing, because it doesn't really exist. So I was like, you know what, there's 40,000 nonprofits out here serving our community. How can I be different? How can I really create something that's going to be simple, effective, and, life-changing? And so I was like, there's a ton of people already doing this out here. I'm not going to waste my time and build a program for coding or UX design or digital marketing, because that's going to take forever. I have the network and the means and the background to be able to build that curriculum. But A, I'm still a military spouse, so I still move every 2-3 years. My husband's not getting out anytime. 2, that takes forever, and I don't have the patience for it. I want to get shit done now. So 3, I just kind of was like, well, why not create a pipeline to the programs that are already doing this well? I get hit up on LinkedIn all the time by civilian, people who are working in these programs, and they're like, we recognize the talent. We want more veterans, military spouses in these programs, but we don't know where to find them. And I would have to turn these people away all the time and go, well, you're not, I can point you in the right direction, but 9 times out of 10, no one's going to pay for this because it's just not economically sound. Again, you take a 28-year-old that's transitioning out and go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so who is doing it well?
Well, so for the minimal viable product stage that I'm at right now is I've created partners in industries with entrepreneurship, project management, digital marketing, UX design, sales, growth marketing, and product management. And I've kind of went out and found some organizations that I already had relationships with, and some that I didn't have relationships with, but I knew the industry was kind of new and no one was talking about it in our space. And so when you're transitioning out, like no one's talking about how can I become a UX designer or how can I be a product manager. Like you're talking about government contracting and all the basic stuff. But that meanwhile, all these jobs are sitting here and waiting to hire us. So it kind of took her a little bit of a risk. And that's what I'm testing right now. But prime example, I just released 10 scholarships on Thursday with one post. I'm spending my entire day today sifting through over 70 applications for those 10 spots.
Wow.
So the demand is there, which is crazy to me. But no one else is doing this.
So what are the describe the scholarships? What does it entail? Who's eligible? Like, how does that work?
Military spouses, veterans, active duty, National Guard, reservists, the entire military community. There's no requirements. There's some things that I'm interested in implementing later on in the year, but I'm starting to see a trend in. But I'm not really ready to commit to a certain demographic at this time because I want to listen to the market. I know what my passions are. Again, that doesn't matter. I kind of want to see what the demand is and kind of collect this data of these 70 people. Right. What are their backgrounds? What branch of service were they in? What was their rank? Are they all military spouses? Like what's the demand here is kind of where I'm at. So I'm hoping by summer I'll have an even much more narrowed down demographic that I serve. But for right now, I'm just kind of like, this is an open book.
Just like doing market research.
Yes. Like I could use my background and guess, but none of that matters unless you have data. So
yeah. So the degrees, you're specializing in these scholarships being around skills-based type of academics. And is this an online or brick and mortar environment that students have to go to and learn?
So it's a little bit of both. Like, for example, the 10 scholarships I have with Founder Institute are targeting only military spouses in 13 cities for them to participate face-to-face in these programs. The project management scholarships I just released, those are only in 5 cities, face-to-face 3-day course. So they're not available to everyone. But the UX design, sales, growth marketing, and product management, those are actually nationally and can be done online. And they have a way to immerse you into the network. So the 5 partners that I have right now are kind of all over the place, but that was built strategically to kind of also see like what does our community want? Do they prefer the face-to-face? Do they prefer the online environment? Do they like a hybrid of both? And so I'm not taking any more partners right now because I really want to focus on the partners that I do have and collect that feedback from people. So I can kind of build, that on the next phase going in later on in the year and next year.
So of the 70 applicants, is anything bubbled to the surface in terms of the types of degrees, certificates, or training that they're interested in taking?
Yeah, right now, project management is huge. Like those 70 applications are all interested in project management.
So let me stop you really quick on that one. I think a lot of reasons why project management, and I say this for a couple reasons. One, that's my degree. I've got an MBA. I've got an MBA with a graduate level certificate in project management. I haven't gone all the way through to get my PMP, but got close. I just, that's a huge commitment to go through and not only obtain your PMP certification, but also maintain it through PDUs annually, etc. But anyway, so that's my background is in project management, and everyone that I talk to that's getting out of the military, and I, because I'm a mentor on Veterati as well, which I know is one of your partners, and that seems to be like there's two things that surface when I talk with folks on Veterati. The first one is consulting, right? Getting out of the military and becoming a consultant and getting paid as a consultant, and or a project management. And I think a lot of it is because, and again, I got out in 2005, and this is really pre-TAPS and pre anything that the military is currently doing. But all I can tell you is somebody in the Department of Defense that made the curriculum around whatever it is to providing folks getting out of the military, they have a huge emphasis on consulting and project management. And the way they sell it is, if you were an NCO or an officer in the military and you led troops and you went on deployment, you are a de facto project manager, and all of your skills will transfer into the civilian sector as a project manager. That's what's being sold. That's the bill of sale. And so everybody gets out of the military, they automatically think that they've got all the skills needed to be a project manager. And now, I'm just being honest with folks out there. You probably, as a military individual getting out of whatever branch of service, doing whatever you did when you were in, there's a lot of aspects to the things and experiences that you've had in the military that do transfer to the project management space. However, I can just, like I said, speaking from experience and through my education, can tell you that just by being an NCO or by being an officer or having led troops in combat does not just make you a project manager when you get out. It's an entire industry that has a certain set of skills, vernacular, terminology, acronyms, methodology that you've got to learn from somewhere, whether it's through higher education or by working at a company that has a PMO perhaps, and you're working as like a project manager assistant or something like that. So there's some building blocks, there's some foundational requirements that you need to really be successful in the quote project manager space when you get out of the military. So anybody who's listening to this right now that's been told that getting out, I'm not trying to crush any dreams here. I'm just trying to keep this shit like down to earth and keeping it real for you.
I agree 100%. I think two sides to this. The first one is the reason why I partnered with the Institute of Project Management is because they actually are they've created a little bit of a hybrid of that. Like they're focusing on active duty transitioning service members. They recognize that they do have some skills that are applicable to project management, but they also recognize you're going to need some other things. And so what they've done is that they've created this 3-day program that they host in different cities throughout the country that will allow you to kind of get this crash course in project management and get you to a point where you don't have to test out of it, where you can use some of your experience to expedite you through the certification process faster and still get all of that knowledge and that language and the different culture and things like that. So I again, these things people were paying out of pocket or weren't going to these opportunities because of the pain point of the financial support. And so for me, it's like, let's test this theory around, like, if I can raise money and provide 10 scholarships, like, what does that look like? Are these people going to go through this program and go out and get the job, faster than they would have if they would have went to college for 3 years and then somehow scrape the money together and that would have been like a 5-year journey? Or can they do it simultaneously while going to get their degree? I don't really know. But what I do know is that there's a pain point, and the paradigm switch is trying to solve that pain point.
Yeah.
The other side of that is that I do recognize that everybody's being told consulting and project management. And the idea around not shifting the model, but switching the model is to kind of get away from that. Mm-hmm. And so while I don't find it surprising that the most demand is in project management and that no one's really applying for the UX design, but what I'm trying to do is create an opportunity as the founder and CEO to start talking about these industries more. And so it's not surprising to me that right now, 8 months into it, the most popular scholarship is project management. That's a no-brainer based off of exactly what you said. But my hope is in 8 more months, we'll have just as much of a demand in digital marketing and entrepreneurship and UX design and coding and et cetera, because these are areas that need people like us or need more people, period, military spouses, and if I'm going to double down on any community, it's going to be the veteran community and military spouse community. So this is like I'm trying to create like a win-win situation. So like right now, that is a hot scholarship. And my hope is, you know, later on down this year and maybe in the fall, who knows what that timeline looks like, I would have switched the model a little bit to start opening up some more doors in other areas. And I'm in conversations with a couple of other industries that want to work with us as well. So that's the idea around, back to your question of like not shifting the model, but I want to switch the model, because I feel like people only go people like to play it safe when they transition out. Surprise, surprise,
yeah,
you know?
And that's and I think that's really what I was trying to get at before, is when people get out of the military, they got a huge interest in consulting and project management, not because they're passionate about consulting or project management. It's because they don't know what else they are good at, and they've been told that their experience and skill sets from the military transfer into consulting and project management. And so when they get out, it's like, what?
And let's be honest, it's sexier.
Right. But no, but that's, I mean, I ask guys all the time, why project management? And they tell me, well, it's because it's the only thing that I know that transfers, and I don't have any other marketable skills. I'm like, you're so wrong. There are so many other marketable skills you have. It's just nobody teaches veterans how to transcribe or how to transfer or translate their military experience into civilian terminology, not just civilian terminology that the civilian world understands, but civilian terminology that the civilian world not only understands, but finds value in. And that's the thing. I think if people spent more time really digging into the value add that they have from their experiences in the military and help them understand how to. Here's an example. I gave a workshop at the university that I got my MBA from. I was asked back second year in a row to give a workshop just prior to a networking event, and the workshop that I gave was around converting your military experience into civilian terminology, and the whole hour-long workshop was dedicated to teaching this room full of student veterans how to actually convert their military experience into civilian terminology prior to them going into a networking event. And you should see the looks on these folks' faces, because they were like, oh my God, like no one's ever broke it down to me that way. Nobody's ever taught me that. And you know, and the feedback that I've received from these students that participated, you know, through social media and emails and stuff afterwards, they were like, you opened my eyes into some aspects of things that I'm qualified to do that I had no idea that I had the skill set to do. I thought I was only able to be a project manager. I thought I was only able to be some consultant of some sort. And you know, this one lady I was talking with, you know, she's got the skill sets that really point towards mental health and counseling, and so that's what she's choosing to pursue her degree in now. And it's exciting when you spend the time to help educate people into things that they can do based off of their desires versus the I guess that's what I'll do because I don't know what else to do. And the reason I say that is because that's what I did. And I think, and Bennett, I won't speak for you, but a lot of veterans that we know, that's what they do. They get out and they do the only thing they think they can do. I became a corrections officer because I thought it was the only thing I could
get into law enforcement.
Right. Because it's the only thing I thought I could get, you know, because back then in 2005, it was, you know, get out and be a cop, get out and be a corrections officer, get out and be, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that line of work, but that's the only reason I entered it is because I didn't know I could do anything else. And now people are basically getting out now, and it's shifting. It's like you don't have to be a cop; you can be a project manager. And here's why: because you led a team. Because,
right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm not poo-pooing project management. I love project management. That's why I got the degree in it, because I'm very interested in project management. I love it. But at the same time, don't get out of the military and pursue project management because you think it's the only thing you can do. Get out there and figure out what other marketable skills you have and pursue your passions and do something you want to do, not something you feel you've got no other choice but to do.
And that's one of the things, like, you and I always talk about is, unfortunately, folks don't follow their passions the way that they should.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have formal, I mean, that's what education is for. And education doesn't mean necessarily going to a 4-year college to get it. I mean, now you literally have the entire world at your fingertips when it comes to the internet. I mean, how many different things could you learn from platforms like Teachable and Udemy and all these other things that just because it doesn't have shit, you can go to freaking MIT and some of these other schools online for free. You just don't get credit for it. So, I mean, half the time, all this information is there. Don't focus on the fact that you have to get that sheepskin. That's what it's not about. It's about actual education, right? So that's what I'm pushing now is and it sounds like, Justine, like you're kind of along the same route. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sheepskin. You just actually have to get the education to do the jobs that you want to do. That's it.
But it takes commitment. It takes commitment, and you got to be passionate about it. And I really enjoy how you recognize this, and you're actually putting some structure around that. And I think the biggest the foundation of everything that we talk about all the time is this idea of networking and the power of networking. And I get so frustrated when I talk to guys that are still in, and I try to talk to them about the power of networking and building your LinkedIn profile and getting out there, meeting new people. And I can't tell you how many times people that are still in, they just look at me and they're like, yeah, I don't need any of that. It's not important to me.
Yeah.
And then you're going to, there's going to come a day when you take that uniform off for the last time, and you're going to need everything that I want to show you right now, and you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And they're like, nah, I'm good, man. I got my DA photo. I've got my, my whatever .mil email address. Like, I'm all set. I've got everything that I need. And then 6 months after them getting out, without fail, I get an email or a phone call, and they're like, hey, man, can you teach me about that networking thing again? Like, this isn't working really well. I'm like, oh, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you get it. Bennett gets it. But there's so many people out there that just don't get it, or they don't believe it, or they don't see the value in it until it's too late. What do you say to them? How do we fix that?
Well, I mean, I would say that is the whole concept around what I'm trying to build. I would say that it's not there right now. It's not. Like, I'm very much in the beginning stages, but that is definitely really wrapped into like those core values of expose, access, and transform. Like, I believe wholeheartedly, like, how can we expose people to something out of the box? Because I believe, and 9 times out of 10, when you're transitioning out, your passion is completely different than what they're telling you in tech class. Like, they're just telling you this very safe line. Like, I got out and thought I wanted to be a project manager for 10 years. Do you know how much I would hate my life if I was a project manager?
Right.
Like, I am the complete opposite of a project manager. I'm great. Like, I'm organized. I get shit done. But like, to just that is not me. And that actually takes me back to the beginning of the conversation around how entrepreneurship has changed me forever, because for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that I love. I'm taking the experience that I have. I'm taking the things that I'm good at and bad at, and I'm turning it into some sort of impact. And like what it is today is probably going to look completely different later on this year or a year from now, because things are moving so fast. But the whole idea is exactly what you're saying of how can we get more people to think outside the box. And when you're number, 40,000 million freaking veteran nonprofit, how can I build this strategically to bring awareness, but also actually have substance, right? So the idea around that is like, I'm going to build scholarships because I need data, and I'm not going to be another nonprofit that just is bringing awareness and sitting in front of a camera talking about this idea. I'm going to do it. And so that is actually the concept around where scholarships came from, is like, okay, I know that I want to talk about this more. I know that I want to expose people to more opportunities to follow their passion and maybe try out some other things like, UX design or whatever that is. I don't know that, but I also need to be able to set myself apart from the other 50,000 nonprofits that are just talking, and I actually need to get something done. And so the idea is like, Renee, she's going through Green Fig right now. And I got a seat donated to the organization. She's actually going through the program right now. She was in this position where she knew that she wanted to be in marketing. She knew that she wanted to be hands-on digital marketing. She has an MBA. She's coming up on like 23 years in service, highly successful. She decided to turn down the BAH to go to Golden Gate University and get this marketing certificate and take a chance on Paradigm Switch and participate in digital marketing program that's about 12, 14 weeks long. And she's loving it. She's like, you know what? This 12-week sacrifice has changed my entire life. Like, most people would have went to the BAH and collected the paycheck, but she now has opportunities coming from everywhere because she has this really fast-paced, new, innovative, knowledge, the Silicon Valley based knowledge that people are craving from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so it won't be
So I've got a question.
Whenever.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, it won't be until Justine and Paradigm Switch can kind of start getting more stories like that and collecting that data, where people will really, really start to see what I'm trying to do here. And that goes back to why, everybody wants to start a business, but how do you do it successful? I think it takes a very delusional person to be okay with like, that's cool. Like exactly what you said, like, oh no, I'm good. And you're like, well, you're going to come see me in a year and I'm not going to like rub it in your face and be like, I told you so, but I know you're going to be back. It's kind of one of those situations where you kind of have to be a little delusional to know that like, this is going to work and I just have to let it play out. And when the data's there, then we'll talk. Mm-hmm. Until then, we're just going to keep doing what we do. And I think that'll come, but it's still too early to say. I spent all of 2017 building this foundation. 18 is very focused on executing that.
Right.
I think a year from now, I'll have a lot of data and we'll have to see what that looks like at that time and just kind of build from there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So one of the things that Eddie and I always talk about is a real honest skills assessment, like having folks really look at what they're actually like, what are their real strengths, not their like perceived strengths, like, but their actual real strengths and interests. So do you guys do you do anything with the folks that apply like that, or like, does that come later, and if so, what do you do?
So I'm working on that right now. So I would say that I am so overwhelmed with the amount of applications I got for the project management certification, and those dates are coming up right now. Like, this is what I'll be doing all day. I won't implement this idea to this batch of people, but one of our partners. So not only do we have these partners with programs, but we have these strategic partners with Higher Served, Veterati, Shift.org, and Mad Skills. And Higher Serve, Gene South and I are putting together this process of, if you apply for a scholarship, before you can even be considered for this scholarship, we need to do like a needs assessment or a passion assessment or some sort of one-on-one coaching to make sure that like you're not being Justine 10 years ago when she transitioned out of the Navy and just going like, I'm going to be a great project manager because the Navy told me so. But in reality, I fucking hate project management.
Exactly.
Like, I'm way too creative and like I got to do things now to follow the rules that much. Like, it's just not me and my style. I like to kind of go rogue and try new things and then implement them when they work.
Too often, I think veterans get pigeonholed.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the skills assessment that the TAPS or the out processing folks or whoever it is, it's doing the
it's flawed,
right? So you get on there and you type in your name, your military branch, your rank, your MOS, and then it spits out all these things that you're qualified for, right? And it's at the top of the list, regardless of pretty much anything you did in the military, is what? Project management, right? It's at the top of every single skills assessment list because
it's just ridiculous.
And everybody's like, they see that and like, oh my God. And then what makes it even worse is they go and they take that word project manager and they go into Glassdoor or any of these other, online job boards and they type in salary. Where am I going to move when I get out? Oh, I'm going to move to Texas. Okay. So, project manager jobs in Houston, Texas. And all of a sudden it comes back and it's got like, $110,000, salary, average salary for project manager in Houston, Texas. I'm making it up, and I'm probably pretty close. And they're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get out of the Army. I'm going to be a project manager. I'm going to be making $110,000 because of all the skills that I've gotten in my last 5 years in the military.
But I'm going to hate my life."
Right.
And then they get out and they're like completely like, reality slaps them upside the head and says, "Yo, bitch, listen, life don't work this way, right? It doesn't not work this way. You may think it does, but it doesn't."
Yeah, that's my transition story right there.
Yes,
right there. Just put a bow on that. Like people, and it's so funny because I've been married for going on 14 years, and my husband it's so funny. We're having this really interesting conversation right now. It's like I feel more who I was right now. I feel just more myself than I have in the last 10. And I transitioned out in 2003, and this has been a god awful journey trying to figure it out. And it's interesting, and something clicked recently. It's just amazing what happens when you just follow your passion. Mm-hmm. But this is not a veteran problem, right? This is an American problem. People look down on, or don't look down, but it's like this idea of success, right? And it's like something clicked with me recently of like, my idea of success is probably different than most people. And sure, like I'm not making six figures. I really don't care. I mean, sure, it'd be great. Like I would love that. I like it. I have expensive taste too. That's my problem. But in reality, what I would have to do if I had to spend 40, 50 hours being a project manager, I would hate my life, and I would never smile, and I would just not be happy. But here I am working 3 jobs, making barely any money, but I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm more me. I'm more genuine with the people I talk to, and it's just a win-win value add. And I don't have to fake it anymore. Like working in higher education, I love higher education. I love it. I miss it. But I was always that really like, oh, here she comes. She's going to like generate all this work for us with all her crazy ideas. Like she's going to want to like change the world. Here she comes. But it just doesn't move.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it just doesn't move fast enough for me, and I had to accept that. But I wouldn't be where I was without that 8 years. So I would also argue sometimes you kind of have to go through that to get where you need to be, because I couldn't build Paradigm Switch if I didn't have that 8 years of experience.
Right.
Like, and that's another problem that a lot of entrepreneurs make. They want to go into an industry and build a product or build a service in an industry that they've never worked in. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, if you want to open, and Todd Connor says this all the time, that's why I love him. He's like, if you want to own a bakery, then go bake. Like, just don't think that you have the skills to open up a bakery when you've never baked or served.
Oh my God, that hits the nail on the head. That's exactly what I tell people that are transitioning out of the military, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to get out of the Army or whatever it is. I'm going to get out of the Marine Corps, and I'm going to start my own nonprofit." And I was like, okay, like, do you know anything about nonprofits? Because I don't know about you, but when I spent 10 years in the Army, I didn't deal with any nonprofits. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't know anybody. Like, I had nothing to do with the nonprofit space. I might have donated to like United Way or something, but that was my limitation of dealing with anything nonprofit related, right? Chances are I was the one standing in the line, trying to get a handout from one of these nonprofits. That was my extent of it, right? So it's like, you're going to get out of the military and you're going to go start a nonprofit, and you know nothing about a nonprofit. I'm like, wouldn't it make better sense to line up a job at a nonprofit, get out of the military and go work at a nonprofit for a couple of years and understand the language and the terminology and what it means to raise funds and everything that goes into a nonprofit? Because maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that you really don't like the nonprofit space, but it's that, right? But right? I don't know anybody that's in the nonprofit space that says, "Oh my God, I love the nonprofit space." Not one person. Maybe I don't know enough people. I just, you know what I'm saying? Or they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get out and I'm going to start my own, military T-shirt company." It's like, bro, listen, I don't know if you know this, but they already have a lot of those. And and just because you think you've got a great idea,
if you didn't know, I also want to start a coffee company.
Yeah, coffee company.
Right.
And it's like, and again, we're poo-pooing on this, but it's like Legit, we see it all the time. And then
Well, I think there's two sides, right?
Yeah.
How do you run a business or a nonprofit, but what industry? So like if you want to start a coffee nonprofit or a coffee business, like you not only got to know coffee, but you have to know how to build a business.
Yes.
So there's two angles to that.
Yes.
Like you can at least be halfway successful if you at least know the coffee industry and don't maybe know how to run a business, but are so passionate about the coffee industry, then do it because you know that industry so well where you could create a product that's so niche that you know you're solving a problem. I mean, like, I'm not a nonprofit expert. To be honest with you, I hate the nonprofit space. I hate relying on other people to donate for my own success. That's just like, I'm pretty honest about it. I don't like to rely on other people for my success, or I don't like to rely on other people to have the impact that I want to have. Like, I want to go and do it. And I like to, maybe that's my control issues, but I just want to go and do it. Like, I don't want to wait around on other people. So I'm not a nonprofit expert, but I know the education space so well where I know the demand. And so I'm kind of learning as I go. And I worked for 2 nonprofits last year and learned, in colleges, community college is a nonprofit. So it's like, I just realized all this experience and all the volunteer experience. Like I wrote my first set of bylaws probably 4 years ago for a spouse association. Like who knew that those bylaws would have served me with building my own nonprofit.
Right.
Turns out I'm actually kind of good at writing bylaws. It's a pain in the ass. I hate it, but I'm all right at it. But you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And so I think it's twofold. That goes back to what you were saying about starting your own business. Like you have to know the industry that you're going into to even have any sort of success, or you better be like the best nonprofit or business language person out there.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not going to have any success. And if you don't have both and you're just like, I think I'm going to start this t-shirt company because it's pretty rad, not going to work.
Yeah. And I've actually had people listen to the show and say, man, Eddie, you're anti-military you're anti-folks getting out of the military and starting their own business, or you're anti-entrepreneur. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am pro-entrepreneur. However, do your damn homework, get a little educated, and do it the smart way. I mean, networking, mentorship, and education. If those 3 concepts are foreign to you, you have no business starting your own anything, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit. Let me say those 3 again: mentorship, education, and damn, what was the third one?
Hell, Bennett and I don't know. We're just along for the ride.
Oh, networking. That's what it was. Networking, education, and mentorship. Those are the 3 those are the 3 pillars and foundation of a successful business. And I'm not saying that if you have those 3, you're going to be successful. Yeah. I'm saying if you don't have those 3, you're going to be out on an island somewhere, like, Tom Hanks was talking to like a volleyball. You know what I mean? Like out there on your own, living your own little world, and you're going to be pissed off because you're not understanding why you're not being successful. And there's,
that's really interesting because I look back on the last year since leaving higher education. That's really interesting. You just kind of put some things together. Like and people were like, well, why did you take the leap now? And I spent the last year was rough. I had a lot of change last year. I went through a couple different jobs and I kind of set off. I never knew I was going to start my own organization. I just kind of left knowing that I wanted to make a larger impact in a fast-paced environment because I was kind of tired of everybody sitting around complaining about it. And I wanted to move a little faster. But through that, education was Ignite. I mean, up until Ignite, this, Eddie, like I'm a first generation college student. Like I don't have world-class education. I don't even have access to that. So applying to Stanford Ignite and attending Stanford Ignite changed my life forever. And it doesn't have an impact on everybody depending on where you come from and the type of education you have. But for me, it was life-changing. Like it opened me up to a lot of things that I didn't even know were possible. And mentorship, like I would have never even had, just over the last probably 2 years, that kind of grew where I started asking for help and seek mentorship, and then network. Like honestly, I look back on that, and if I would have tried to start Paradigm Switch 2 years ago, I would have already failed. It would not be, me saying I just completed my 18-month goals in 6 months. I think it was all about timing.
Yeah.
It was all about strategic timing of like, now is the time. And honestly, when I had this light bulb moment, my husband thought I was crazy. He came home and I was like, I think I just founded a nonprofit. He's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, no one just does that. You know, this is like a process. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm very aware of what I'm up against, but I think like all of this makes sense right now, right here in this moment. And so I did have like that almost like movie, you know, style moment of like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. But I could have easily just went to bed and been like, all right, that was fun. Now let's just go to work. And so I think there is also like another inspiring part to that of you kind of have to recognize your opportunity and execute it when the timing is right, not only for you, but for the market. Because now we were just vacationing in Hawaii and he's like listening to this podcast and it's like this senator in Rhode Island and she's talking about expose and access to skills-based programs. And he looks at me and he's like, she's saying like what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, like it's really interesting how I was able to see this happening. And I'm the only one kind of doing this in the veteran space. While there's 45,000 nonprofits, sure, but no one is generating scholarships to skills-based programs. That's going to change soon because everybody's going to listen to this and start learning about paradigm switch and everybody's going to try and do it. And that's when it will try and, you know, things will evolve. But it's really interesting about the timing of the opportunity, but then going back to the founder as well. Like, what is that founder? Do they have the network? Do they have the mentorship? Do they have the education to be able to execute on this idea? Because people have ideas every day. I mean, I have 10 ideas every day. But what does the market say? You know, I'm tossing around another opportunity right now with a good friend of mine. And we're just like, let's just test this for a couple weeks. Because if no one cares, it's not worth it. You know, like if no one cares or even wants to even listen to it or pay for it or just even click on it, like why would we even waste our time? And that's a hard lesson for a lot of entrepreneurs of, you know, I'm so passionate about this t-shirt company. Well, there's like 1,000 t-shirt companies out here. Right. You know, and my favorite is someone building a nonprofit servicing transitioning veterans that hasn't transitioned yet.
Oh,
that's my
ding 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 ding. It's like we say it all the time. It's the retired sergeant major that's standing up in front of the TAPS class, or post sergeant major's wife standing up in
right.
you know in front of the TAPS class, giving everybody that's transitioning out like advice. It's like what do you mean? How are you qualified to give any of us advice? That I just don't.
I'm the crazy one, right? I'm the one
been
that's
a civilian for 30 years.
Yes, yeah. It's
And then you have crazy Justine that's coming in with like a backward hat and sunglasses, like, hey guys, I kind of got some theory around this, but no one wants to hear that yet. But I'm kind of, you know, what's interesting and why I reached out to you again to have this conversation is because I think it's changing. I think there are people out here in this space like yourselves, like me, and you know who exactly of the people who get it. My mission, ultimate mission is like, how can all of us band together to kind of change that paradigm together?
Right.
Like this is big.
I totally agree. And here's the thing, right? Everyone eventually gets it, right? I eventually got it when I was, I don't know, 11 years after I got out of the Army. Like Bennett eventually got it, right? Like everybody eventually gets it, right? And but my question is,
usually it's about that 10 to 11 years.
But here's the question.
Right.
How do you make it, or what do you need to do in order to drive that epiphany moment from 10 to 11 years post-military back to, I don't know, even 5 years or even 1 year? Or how about this? Perfect, like pie in the sky is we drive it all the way back to like 12 months before somebody gets out. Like that's like, you know what? If
it really is frustrating.
If we can drive, here's the thing. If we can drive what we know today and the epiphanies that we've received 11, 12 years out of the military, if we can drive that all the way back to guys and gals 12 months before they get out of the military, guess what? Do you know what will change? Here's what will happen. People will actually have a plan. They will take ownership. They will do what they need to do to be successful for themselves. They will get the necessary education that they need to be successful. They'll find a mission. They'll find purpose. The suicide rate will drop. I guarantee you there'll be so many positive things that come of it. But unfortunately, we wait 10, 12 years to figure it out. And in that time, there's a lot of really bad shit that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that pisses me off. Because it pisses me off because I know that they're eventually going to figure it out. And let's be honest,
right.
some people don't. Some people never figure it out. You know, there's right. Vietnam veterans today that have not figured that out, right? And I feel sorry for them. But there's going to be some, Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom veterans 30 years from now that will have never figured it out either. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But my God, how do we make it so people get this shit before it's, a decade out of the military?
I mean, my honest answer is it's up to us, in my personal opinion. I've been working in veteran services before that was even like a cool thing to do. And I think what's happening right now is a little bit around what like Marjorie Eastman talks around of like this frontline generation of the people who got out in like 03, 04, 05, 06, 02, like myself and you, like those are the people who have kind of taken this beaten path and have figured it out and have it figured out. And I do believe that there is a movement going on of those people who are kind of leading from the front for those who are going to be after us. And we don't have it figured out yet. And I don't think any one person is going to have the solution. But I do think I think it's going to be solved through entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be solved through innovation and entrepreneurship. Like right now, you're doing a Change Your POV network, which is impacting a lot of people along the way. That's not the solution, but it's part of the solution. And what I would like to see is, and for example, like Bunker Labs is not the solution, but Bunker Labs is creating ecosystems. Right now they're in 17 cities, but I think I would say right now that national organization is about to go through a big pivot and kind of strategy of, even they have recognized that the key here is access. It's access to exactly what you talked about, education, mentorship, and network. And it's like, what's happening in the Bay Area for Bunker Labs, we're not doing an NC cohort. Like, we're not trying to raise all this money. Like, I've kept it very simple because I think the bread and butter is, let's just host a happy hour once a month and get a bunch of people together and have an effective leader in the room who can connect the dots for people. Yeah. Because the connection I just made for Joe or Jane over here would have normally taken them 5 years to make.
Exactly right.
And I just solved that problem through one beer.
Right.
Like, and that's why I won't give up any of my jobs, because I think they all go really well together. I think there's something happening there where if you get the right people leading from the front and are very selfless and can kind of make those connections, it's like, I'm almost, when I look back on all my student veterans, when I worked at College San Mateo 2 years ago, and like I hosted California's first student veteran leadership conference, everybody thought I was nuts. Now I look at those veterans and I'm just like, half of them are in Ivy League schools. Half of them are going to be outpacing Justine in 2 years. And like, that's amazing. That is what we need, right? We need people to be better than us at a faster rate. The problem is that takes a special person, and we need to just continue to keep working to find all of those special people and get those people.
That's awesome.
Because it's not about us. It's about them. And I do feel obligated to continue to build things and services and organizations. Like Paradigm Switch for me, I'm very passionate about it. I don't think it's the solution. I think it's part of the solution, but I also know in my heart that this is only the beginning for whatever Justine's going to create down the road. Like, I think there'll be more things to come, and there has to be. This can't be it. This isn't the whole solution. So I just try to really work to maintain relationships, build community, and try to remind people, like, you and Benton, like, you have to do this. Like, I know it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's countless hours, but in reality, we are the generation that's going to change this.
Absolutely.
I believe that in my heart, and that's just kind of what keeps me going when I'm tired as hell. That and whiskey, I would argue.
That and whiskey. Love well,
like whiskey and wine. I don't know where I would be. I mean, I do have 3 kids. Let's just be real.
Oh my God.
Like, sometimes just pour a little whiskey and just keep
That's
going.
right. Whiskey and a smile, right? Hey,
Right.
hey, Justine, I love having you on the show again. I'm glad you're here.
Caffeine and hate.
Yeah, caffeine and hate. So wrap it up. Where can people find more about you and what you got going on and those scholarships that you keep? Because I know you're busy with sifting through those applicants, but I want to bear you with more applicants. So where could people go and learn more about you and what you got going on?
Right. So Paradigm Switch, the paradigmswitch.org website's up and running. AKA shout out to website development. It is like a huge bear. But that is up and running, and there is an application process on there. It's not real in depth. Like I said, right now we're keeping it very simple. People can also find me on LinkedIn, Justine Evirs. You can find me on, Justine at theparadigmswitch.org. If people are interested in Bunker Labs, it's justine.evers at bunkerlabs.org. I run the Bay Area chapter, and we do monthly events. I'm just kind of got my hands on, and if I don't have the answer, I know someone that does, and if I don't, I'll go find them.
Hell yeah.
And that's pretty much it. So yeah, right now I'm recruiting for 10 seats in 13 cities for any military spouse who's interested in starting their own business in like a tech startup environment. I have 10 seats available. I also have 10 seats available in 5 select cities for project management. And then I'm raising money right now to fund 15 more scholarships in industries such as UX design, sales, BD, product management, and growth marketing. And the idea is to put 35 people through these programs by July 1.
Wow.
Collect the data, reassess it, and then, go from there. So I'm not focused on grant writing. I'm focused on private donors. So if anybody's listening to the show, I am actively looking for private donors. We're up to about $70K in-kind donations, but I'm looking to raise $50K in capital. I just got my first check 2 weeks ago, so we're definitely on our way. I'm also looking for people to join the team. I'm a one-woman show right now at Paradigm Switch, and things are going crazy, and I have a small board because you have to as a nonprofit, but I am looking to build my team because things are growing so fast. I need help. I need people who are passionate about what we're doing and are willing to put in a little bit of time and take a risk and volunteer some time, 5, 10, 15 hours a week to this mission, because for sure in a year from now, it will be a paid position, generating a full-time job. But this is how things start.
Yep.
There's been this picture of the Amazon founder, floating around working in this small office I keep seeing online. It's just, to me, that's what inspires me. It's like every organization out here that's having large impact started in their living room.
That's right. That's right. That's where I am right now.
I'm in my dining room. I got my 10 and 8-year-old running around here. You know how many times I've given them the mom look to get the hell out of here? You know that
I
look,
know that
right?
look. Yeah.
I had to kick my kids out of the house.
They're outside shivering still.
They're out playing in the snow right now. Yeah, seriously. They're outside playing in the snow because I threatened their lives already 3 times. Why are you screaming?
They're like, Dad, we got frostbite out here. Can we come in yet?
Dad, we're hungry. We need a snack.
Negative. Suck it up and drive on.
Oh, God.
Right?
All right.
But, I think having these relationships is what keeps me going. Knowing that you guys are in your living room and you're doing this and someone's going to listen to this and it's going to be impactful and change someone's life, hopefully multiple people, is this is what it's about. People who think that you walk in with this business suit with 6 figures and you're just changing lives that way. I don't believe that. And again, my idea of success is different than other people. I think we're changing lives with snapbacks and sunglasses, and we're just working our asses off to make a difference.
Amen.
That's my personal opinion.
Hell yes. Very cool.
So that's it. Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on anytime. Love talking to you. And keep us informed. Let us know what's going on. And if you got anybody that goes through any of your programs or any of your courses, classes at any, whether it's a online course or a brick and mortar, whatever, and they want to come on and on the show and kind of talk with us about that experience and kind of what it was like going through that, what they learned, I'd love to interview them as well. So that's an open invitation to anybody that you're working with that might love to come on and do that. So very cool.
Consider it done. You don't offer Justine things and think she's going to just not. So I already be in touch.
Excellent.
Don't worry.
Very cool. All right, folks.
All right.
Well, you heard it here. You can find everything that we talked about on the show notes for this show over at changeyourpov.com. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. And hey, if you want to give back, you could do that right now by simply going over to iTunes or Stitcher and leaving us an honest rating and review. It helps other listeners find our show. People that listen to other podcasts, we want to get them to listen to this podcast. So give us an honest rating and review. Let us know what you really think about the show, what we did well, things we can do differently or better. This show is for you, after all. We love what we do, but at the end of the day, it's for you guys. So head on over iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, iHeartRadio, any podcast aggregator. Leave us a rating and review. We'd love it. We read all of them, and we're going to start kicking out reading some of these reviews on air, Bennett. So we're going to start collecting them and capturing them somewhere and then reading them on air. So there you have it, folks. Tune in. We got all kinds of incredible shows from all of the hosts over at the Change Your POV Podcast Network. Right now, Jeff is releasing his series on Band of Brothers every Wednesday. He just released episode 2 last week, and he'll be releasing more every week. And he's going to be doing a companion show on the Band of Brothers every episode and talking about the lessons in leadership of Band of Brothers. So some incredible guests, other podcast hosts, and Dale Dye himself makes an appearance on the show. So you don't want to miss out on that. So head on over to changeyourpov.com. At the top, click on podcasts and click on BOB, Band of Brothers, Lessons in Leadership. All right, folks, until next time.